Good evening, everyone. We are back. We are back for another conversation. We are back. We are back. So, I am your host, Dr. Tiara Graves. This is the Grief and Depression Awareness Group right here on Facebook, bringing you real conversations, real testimonies, real stories of people who have navigated through grief, who are still navigating through grief, and who understand grieving with God. And so we are so grateful on tonight to have our special guest, Dr. Heather Robinson from Pennsylvania. So we are so excited to have her come on tonight and share with us a little bit about what grief has been for her. So while we're here, come on in the room. We are excited to share on this evening. Again, I am Dr. Tiara Gray. Um, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm just waiting for our guests to pop on and we will jump right into the conversation. Um, Happy Friday. Hope that you guys are having a great Friday. Hope that you had a great day. And thank you for being in this space with us. Thank you for um, just sharing in this space and in this group. We are excited to have over 350 members, which is outstanding. We have over 350 members in the group, and we are excited about what God is doing through this space and what God is teaching us and bringing to our awareness concerning grief and depression. Many of you have heard a little bit about my story and my testimony, and I always say that depression and grief go hand in hand because through grief, you may have those moments of depression, and outside of that grief, you may not have experienced depression. And for me, it was due to grief that I had suffered with depression for the amount of years that I did. So our guest is watching. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking, bring our guest up. So again, I'm Dr. Tiara Graves. This is Grief and Depression Awareness Group. And tonight our guest speaker is none other than Dr. Heather Robinson. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. She's going to bring you guys greetings from Pennsylvania, and I'm excited to hear what she has to share on tonight concerning grief and God's glory in her life. Amen. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up. Okay. Can you hear me?
Excuse my background. I can hear you.
Oh, awesome.
My office is under reconstruction, guys. At home
Oh,
office.
no, oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, and we're going to just jump right into the conversation about what grief has been for you, how has God showed up for you during those moments of grief, and just whatever you feel led to share on this evening with our listeners.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Heather Robinson. I'm from Philly. I don't live in Philly anymore. I'm kind of glad because of all of the flooding. I don't really know what to say about me. I am the youngest of nine. Um, where they do that. And my journey has been very interesting, to say the least, but I will go more into my journey as the night progresses, but I am the visionary behind Anointed to Write and Educators Rise Enterprises. And that's all I got.
So you could go right into what you want to share about grief.
I feel like grief comes in waves. It's very layered. And so, with my experience and watching other people experience grief, we all experience it differently. And the waves of grief can kind of catch you off guard. One of the things that, if I work backwards to work forward, I grieved in variations. I've grieved loved ones. I've grieved certain things within myself. I've grieved certain losses that I've had. So grief for me has been a very interesting journey. I lost my mother when I was 7, my father around Thanksgiving, 2 months before my 16th birthday. That was hard because we had plans. And the relationship I had with my dad was rather close. We had plans, and he did not live to see those plans come into fruition. So that was a tough pill to swallow, because for my mom, she never saw me with any of my school milestones. She never saw me graduate 8th grade. She wasn't there when I got my first menstrual. She wasn't there for my first date. She wasn't there for prom or high school graduation. She wasn't there for any of that. My father was not there for prom or high school graduation either. So graduating in high school and them not being there was a different experience for me. But I think being the first of 9, as well as not just me and my siblings, but my parents, being the first in my first immediate unit to graduate college and to celebrate that without them was bittersweet. And based off of your age and where you are in your journey, grief can be something that really can still joy if you allow it to. And so I like to stand on Romans 8:28. It states, "For we know that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purposes." It didn't say some things or most things, it said all things. So all things being the good, the bad, the ugly. All things being I'm rich and I'm poor. I'm the have and the have not. I've been successful and I've had failures. I've been up and I've been down. All things work together. So as you get older and you mature, you start to understand your way of handling grief better. One of the heaviest things I've had to handle was in 2021, I lost a sister, and turned around in 2022 and lost another sister. And in the process of that, I had to have certain surgeries and procedures that would change the trajectory of my life. So in 2021, I lost a sister in May, and in June, I had an open myomectomy. They had to remove 15 large fibroids, which were the size of a newborn baby. And this was not a bikini line cut. This was the ugly cut from the belly button down. So all of that was to be able to produce life. And then you find out later on that you can't. And then you're in perimenopause. And then you have these preventative surgeries because I carry the BRCA1 gene, and I had to have a hysterectomy and I had to have a double mastectomy. And I've just felt like all of my womanhood was taken away from me in those surgeries. So in that moment, I didn't grieve the way I'm used to grieving, right? Which is the death of a loved one. I had to grieve the death of an ability. I had to grieve the death of the old me. And I had to come to grips with learning how to love the new me. You know, when you have a lot of scars from major surgeries, and I had 4 major surgeries within a 10-month span. And when you're put under anesthesia 4 times like that, it's taxing on your body. It's taxing mentally. And it really makes you look at yourself differently. So I've had to really like sit in how I felt, but not stay there. I had to sit in it to process it, but I couldn't stay there because it would have actually tore me apart. And so that's my grief story in one short synopsis.
So do you want to elaborate? Because we talked a little bit. I've had several guests come on and talk about the grief of yourself, like that whole grieving your old identity to what your new identity is. We've had several people share from that aspect. And that's a powerful aspect to talk about because, as we know, grief is not always the death of a loved one, right? It can stop there. Like you said, you lost your mom and your dad. And everyone knows my backstory. I started this platform after the loss of my father, so I can definitely relate to, your big achievements and your big milestones in your life that you want to share those with your family and you're not able to. My father also passed away 2 years before I graduated from college, and my graduation date was actually the date of his passing. So not only am I trying to navigate grief, but now I'm reminded, right, that he
Mm-hmm.
passed because now this ceremony is on his death date.
Right.
And so I'm trying to navigate with, being happy, celebrating this moment, but also, missing him. And changes in our health is a big one. I talk about that a little bit too in this space because people don't realize how much you can grieve a change in your health, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
what that change is, because now that that change has happened, you're no longer navigating life through the same lens that you was before that sickness, right? Before
Right.
that challenge, before that operation, before that surgery, before that diagnosis. So if you want to go ahead and elaborate on, what was that like? Getting the diagnosis, going through the surgery, and then now understanding, like you said, your womanhood was stripped from you. This idea of what it means to be a woman, I'm sure that was a challenge in itself. Y'all, she is married.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that, with dealing with it with yourself, but how was it also dealing it with your spouse?
I think it goes back to the beginning. So in 2018, I went for a physical, and my PCP is very thorough. So she'll ask you like family history. And every year I was adding on someone else with cancer, specifically breast cancer. I was adding on, adding on. So the myth is breast cancer skips a generation. Well, not in my family. So, I mean, we're always the ones that things happen to that they say don't happen. So, yeah. So 2018, after I had that physical, she wanted me to meet with a genetic specialist and get genetic testing. Of course, when you have, and this is really important for everybody, when you have any type of cancer that runs in your family, you're able to get genetic testing for free. So all you need to do is ask your PCP. It's very important, women and men. If you have a lot of family members and breast cancer runs in your family, it's really good to ask your doctor to start your testing between the age of 25 and 30. They say 40, but that has changed since cancer has gone rampant. So I did my genetic testing and I found out that I carried BRCA1 among others, but the other ones a lot of people don't know about. So 70% of white women and 80% of black women will be impacted by the BRCA1 gene somehow, some way by the time they reach 40. That's statistics, right? And so 2018, I found out I carried that gene. I called one of my sisters that I was really, really close to. She passed in 2022 of ovarian cancer. But I called her to tell her, hey, I took this genetic testing. I think you should too. I carry this gene. She got quiet. And then that's when she told me she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So that was a journey, right? Because you're navigating that you carry this gene you don't really know much about. And then you have a sister that also carries the gene and she has the breast cancer. So I'm navigating that journey, watching her go through that journey, because you can say I went through it with her all you want, but no, you don't go through it with them because you're not the one that is going through the chemotherapy and the radiation and losing your hair, losing weight, and just your physical appearance changing. So it was very difficult to watch her go through that, but we prayed. And what I will say is God healed her from the breast cancer. Sometimes we will pray for something and get upset because we feel like God didn't answer our prayer. The second
Right.
time around, he did answer the prayer, but he healed her on the other side and not on this side.
Hmm.
Because she had, for those that don't know anything about ovarian cancer, it's very hard to detect. There's not a lot of research about it. If you don't get your annual pap smears and you don't get checked, you won't see it until you start having symptoms. Once you have symptoms, you are too far gone for them to do anything. So She was diagnosed, stayed in a hospital for about 45 days, and we moved her up here to a nursing home to do hospice. And she came up here in July. She passed in August. So hers was very, not even 4 months between being diagnosed and passing away. I watched her take her last breath. That's a different type of grief. I watched her take her last breath. My prayer to the Lord was that she didn't die alone, because she always felt like she was alone. I was there. My husband was there. My cousin who helped take care of her was there. My brother and my sister-in-law were there. So she did not die alone. So God also answered that. So sometimes you have to look at the small nuances. You got to look at the sprinklings of God's presence. And sometimes things don't always go the way we want it to go, but God will still show himself faithful in different ways. And so going through that ordeal of losing two sisters back to back, 2021, my sister died of she had a massive asthma attack. Then she died. So the two are so polar opposite of how they died, but they also died at age 50 and age 48. And so in 2022, I'm looking at my sister, who is 5 months younger than my husband, and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at her in that bed. So that put me in another headspace. You know, grief just goes as all over the place as this story is, as I'm telling you, is how grief was filling to me. It was all over the place. Then the last conversation I had with my sister before she passed was, I don't want you to end up like me. Get the preventative surgeries, because she didn't get the hysterectomy like she was supposed to. So I got the hysterectomy first because I felt like there's more advances in breast cancer. If I were to get breast cancer, they catch it in time. You know, it's a higher chance of me surviving that than ovarian cancer. So I went and got the hysterectomy, and he took everything out. And so then I was like, wow, my stomach is full of marks. You know, I got these 5 little marks that look like somebody just stabbed you. And then I got this long mark from the navel down. It's, you know, you start to really, it kind of affects your self-confidence. But when I had to get the double mastectomy, that was something that put me somewhere else. Because depending on your circumstance, there's a lot of different ways that they can handle that surgery. And for me, I had to get implants. So there is an imposter in my body. There is certain things that are no longer there. You know, you look at yourself. I would take a shirt off and try to look at myself to help myself get past it and just go to crying. Because I was like, this is not me. I've never had scars on my body for nothing, not even from when I was a kid. So seeing this, and that could be a little vain, but it also does, a part of your physical appearance can shake your self-confidence. And so just going through all of those losses, and I had the surgery 6 months between each other. So I had my hysterectomy, then I had a 2-in-1 surgery where they had to remove the breast, and then I had the reconstructive surgery. So within a 10-month span, I had 4 surgeries. And that's very taxing on the body and the mind. What I learned through the process, though, is I remember having a conversation with my husband when we found out we weren't going to be able to have kids, and I went into a fetal position and just sobbed. I mean, I sobbed like a baby. And the way he kind of just went behind me and just held me, that did something to me in that moment, because I know people who have similar situations and the relationship kind of pulls apart. It brought us closer together. And so God gave me what I needed in the moment, because I didn't have a close sister that I could call. I wasn't going to call my brothers because that's kind of weird. And I'm of the school of thought that if you didn't experience it, I'm really not going to talk to you about it because you don't understand. Didn't say that was a right mindset, but that was my mindset in the moment. So I didn't call my best friend and talk to her about it, because here she is, she got kids, she didn't have to have these surgeries. Yeah, she had C-sections, but she got babies out of it, so it was worth it. we're not the same. I can't talk to you about it. And that sounds so harsh. I had another girlfriend and it was the same thing. It was like she went through certain things that were similar, but she had already had kids. So it's like you understand a piece of it, but at the end of the day, you still have somebody to call you mom. And that's something that I'm still kind of dealing with to this day, because it wasn't just something that I wanted, but it was something that I wanted to give my husband. And society is so, the way society sets up and defines womanhood. You know, as a woman, you're supposed to be able to do this. You're supposed to give your husband children. You're not a real woman until you become a mother. Like, there's so many different things and stigmas that society puts on you, and people don't really know. Some people are not trying to be hurtful, right? They're just following the stigma. They don't really know what you're dealing with, because I don't wear it as a badge of honor. When people come into my presence, I'm not a Debbie Downer. I'm usually very bubbly and happy. So you don't really know what's going on inside. But grief is something that we all go through, and if you ain't going through it yet, you're gonna go through it. It's a part of life. And I feel like sometimes as I'm going through this season, and I told my pastor this on Monday. This is so crazy. I told him, I said, I feel God so strong in this season. And we talked about capacity. And not everybody around you has the capacity to walk beside you through certain things. Everybody can't go on the journey.
Right.
And that's okay. Right. I think I put a post up and I said something about business. It's okay if the people that are closest to you or the people that are around you, your business is not for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm in education. My brothers aren't in education. It's not for them. And that's okay. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves as women, men, people in business, whether you're career driven or whatever that thing is that you have. Everybody has that thing where they're really hard on themselves. And I feel like who is supposed to be with you on the journey of the season that you're in is going to be there. And I don't feel no type of way no more. I used to be mad because people didn't show up. I had a major surgery and you knew about it and you didn't even show up. Everybody's not going to show up in that season. Who's supposed to be there is there. Whether it's a text, a phone call, a DM, a visit, somebody send you something. No one owes you anything. And when you navigate grief, it's hard to put your psyche around that fact. No one owes me anything, because you're expecting the people that you love and that are closest to you to show up. Do they have the capacity to show up for you in this season? Because they might not.
Right.
And that's what I'm learning in this season right now. Why I feel God so closely. I don't talk on the phone too much no more. I probably talk to one person on the phone every day, and it's not even my best friend. And I don't know, like I'm in such a different season where things don't even bother me. Like, I had a conference on the 18th. Nobody knows what I was going through that day, because when I showed up to that conference, I was cracking jokes, laughing, got up there unscripted and gave you like an 8-minute talk and sat down. I'm in a season where God is growing me up.
That's good.
And I can admit that. Sometimes people think that they've arrived and they're so mature. God is growing me up in this season. He's preparing me in my now for my next. And I don't know what the next is. But when I think about having faith, and we can regurgitate, what the scripture says, but are you living it out? There's declaration, explanation, and application of the word. Anybody can declare a thing. And a lot of us are eloquent of speech enough to explain it and break it down. But how many of us can apply it? What do you apply in your now to help you to get through this stage of grief? What can you apply to that? Mine is Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. is it Philippians 4:13, 4:18? I can't remember the address. I can do all
Yeah,
things through Christ who strengthens me. There
that's
are
it.
certain scriptures that you can apply in the moment. And when
Right.
you start applying those scriptures, you start to live certain things out. It's like repetition. After a while, you start believing it. Right. And so you got to be around something to believe it. It can't just be a one-time thing. In order to really believe that the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much, in order to believe that by his stripes you're healed, in order to believe that God said, I know the plans I have for you, in order to believe the scripture that says healing is the children's bread, you got to be in it. And for me, and I don't know what everybody else's is, but for me in this season, this is my husband's Bible, but it's about getting in this word and getting in God's presence, because the last from 2021 to 2026 and all the things that I've done in between navigating certain things, people are still trying to figure out today how I'm still here. And all I can tell you is by the grace of God. For the grace of God, there go I. And listen, that's my grief journey. It's going to be a forever journey. You're not ever going to get over grief. You just learn to live and walk through it with grace.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. I don't know how many people are going through something right now. And a lot of times you go on Facebook and people have these perfect posts because life is so grand, right?
Right.
Because people put their entire life on Facebook and on Instagram, and it's all about it's either left or right. There's no in between. You either see the perfect life or you see the ratchet.
Right. For
But there's
sure.
no in between. There's nobody saying, you know what? I lost my 6-figure job. But I also understand that that was a resource, but God is the source. And so if God be for me, ain't a devil in hell can do nothing to me, against me.
Right.
You don't see a lot of that. Right. And so a lot of these people, these young people, and we celebrate them, we clap for them. You know, these celebrities that's singers. You got your gospel artists. You got your big bishops and pastors that are well known, and they doing great. They got books. They got production companies. They got record labels. They got this. They got that. They got other means of making money. And that's great. But what happens when your foundation is shook? And so I watched
Oh, that's
the
good.
Jakes family, right? And so last year, you know, Bishop T.D. Jakes had a heart attack. That shook the foundation of his family and his church, right? Then he passed his church off because now it's time to take care of me. I'm gonna pass this off to my daughter and my son-in-law. But then your daughter had to have neck surgery because she broke her neck, shaking the foundation. What happens when your foundation is shaken? I watched this bishop, and I was telling my husband this. I said, there's a bishop his father was a bishop. He was in the hospital, and a doctor was saying he was getting better. And he walked in and told the congregation, because the world was praying. He told the congregation, I believe that in 3 months' time, my father's going to walk through that door. He pointed to a doorway. 2 weeks later, he had to go and tell the church his father passed away. What happens when you were doing everything that you're supposed to do? You're fasting, you're praying, you're reading the word, you're checking all the boxes, and your father still dies. Same thing happened to the Evans family, Priscilla Shirer's mom. The world was praying for her, and she still died, right? And so when you're navigating grief, you got to understand God's character. God can do whatever he wants to do, but he does things for a purpose, right? So as you're navigating the why behind how come we did everything right, but this happened, you're not looking at the fact that you prayed for this person to be healed and they were healed, just not the way you wanted them to be healed.
That's right.
And so when I think about grief and I think about My mom had a sickness, and so she suffered. My dad had a heart attack. He died instantly. My sister with the asthma attack suffered for a little bit, but it wasn't long before she died. My other sister suffered with cancer. When I think about grief, I think about how selfish, I make it personal, how selfish I can be. Because did I want my sister to leave here? Nope. Meanwhile, she's suffering.
Right.
That's selfish.
Yeah.
And
A lot
so
of
as
people
I'm
do that.
navigating this season where I told you God is trying to grow me up, that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sovereign. And so if you're going to lean in, lean in. Otherwise, don't. You see all these catastrophes happening. Philadelphia had all them floods, not one casualty. It's happening in Delaware. It's happening in Virginia. It's happening in New Orleans. It's happening in all these different places. And you don't have a lot of people that are being injured. You don't have a lot of casualties. God is trying to get everybody's attention. And when I say God is trying to grow me up in this season, God is trying to grow us up. He's preparing me and my now for my next. He's preparing us and our now for our next because we're in the end times. And so we got to get prepared for the end times. People are already buying their perishable items. People have started gardens. People have started, what is it called when you put the fruits in the jars?
Oh, canning.
They started doing that. People are preparing for the 7 years of famine. And it's going to be a great falling away. You going to be a part of that falling away, or are you going to stick and stay? And then as I'm navigating this thing called grief, it's showing me the different phases that I've gone through with grief, but also how you're supposed to utilize your grief to help somebody else to get through to the other side.
That's right.
We don't go through what we go through for ourselves alone. That's the selfish mentality. But we go through to help somebody else to get through because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a village.
Right.
Yeah. That's me talking about grief.
Girl, this is great. I don't want to rush you. Typically, the podcast normally goes for an hour, but I don't want to hold you. I feel like you have said some powerful things. You have left us with food for thought. I really like the part about God's sprinkle of God's presence, the sprinkle of God's presence, because sometimes when we're in it so heavenly, we miss the little sprinkles that
Mm-hmm.
God dropped as a reminder to let us know that He is with us, right? And you talked a little bit about the frustration. We all have been there, the frustration of people not showing up because you thought that they would. But in that frustration, we know that the person that shows up every time
Mm-hmm.
is God, right? And so even if our friends and family don't show up for us the way that we expected, we know that we are still in good company, as they say, right? Because we in the arms of God. And I think that is the part that many people miss.
Yeah.
Because we always say that, oh, you're not alone, you need anything. We say these things to people all the time, but can you honestly say that when they call or when they actually need someone in the physical, are you really there? And most of the time, that answer is no. And then we have no choice but to, like you said, stick and stay.
Yeah.
We have to stick and stay with God because God will never leave us or forsake us the way that the humans do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just what it
Yeah.
is, right? I mean, and people have whatever they're going through in their own lives that sometimes they're not able to show up, because they could be going through a season just as difficult,
Yep.
or if not worse, than the season that we're in. Because sometimes we only see what we're going through,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know that someone else could be worse off than us. But because we don't see that in that moment, we're stuck on what's happening with us. Right. And so again, that goes back to, like you said, this selfish mentality, um, this um challenge, with how do I grieve? How do I navigate through grief? And in some of those moments, you do feel alone, because
Yeah.
that's the human aspect of it. Like, we're all human, we're all spiritual beings, but we're also human beings, and our human state can take us to a mental place where we feel isolated, where we feel depressed, where we feel alone, where
Mm-hmm.
we feel all of these negative aspects that attributes itself to grief.
Yeah.
But in order for God to truly grow you up, and in order for you to grow, right, and grieve with God, you have to tap in a little bit deeper. And I think that's comes with maturity. You also mentioned that it definitely comes with maturity. And I learned a lot about that over the past, just for me, within the last 3 years of just going through a grief. I went through getting my grief license, learning about what grief is, just getting a different perspective from a spiritual lens,
Mm-hmm.
and not just going off of, like you said, the way the world tells us we should do things. The world shows us this is what grief is. But if you, again, go back to the scriptures, it says that we should not grieve like we don't have hope. So we shouldn't grieve the same way as a non-believer. And yeah, that's easier said than done, right? It
Mm-hmm.
truly is, right? We
Absolutely.
have,
Yes.
we have all the tools, we have all the scriptures, we have all the answers in the Bible that we need to tell us how this is supposed to play out. But it doesn't always play out that way. And I feel like grief is learning. Like, I think it's you just have to learn,
Yeah.
and you learn over time. And no one person grieves the same way,
Right.
right? No one, if people would love to say, "Oh, girl, I've been when you've been." You touched on that too. Like, I think that's powerful statement to be able to say, "No, I'm not communicating with this person because they really do not know what I am experiencing because they
Right.
have not experienced it." Right? And that go just for you and I. Like, we recently connected since March, and I grieved the loss of my dad.
Yeah.
But my relationship with my dad is not the same relationship that you had with your dad.
Right.
And I say I
And the times that
understand.
we lost them, the relationship is different. You're talking about a
Exactly.
15-year-old with her father.
Right.
My relationship would have been different had I had my father as an adult.
Right.
I wanted to share. I took a class in undergraduate, and it was an elective, but it was like, let me take that. It's a little interesting. It was called Death and Dying. Sounds eerie. But we read a story entitled Tuesdays with Maury. If you are somebody that's experiencing grief, and I don't do this with books, I don't. Tuesdays with Maury is on Amazon. I'm pretty sure you could probably get it from a bookstore too. This book is Maury was a professor, and one of his students who grew up came back and would go visit him every Tuesday, and they would have coffee and have conversations, real conversations. And after a certain amount of time, Maury passed away. And so this student had to navigate losing his person, because that was his person. He was with Maury every Tuesday, drinking coffee and having conversations. So that was his person. The book shows you a little bit of how he navigated that grief and what he did with it. And although we all grieve differently and we navigate it differently, it's very interesting to see someone else's perspective, especially when it wasn't a loved one that was a blood relative. Because a lot of times we will put grief kind of on a pedestal, like, oh, that was just your grandmom, you still got your mom. Or, oh, that was your long, long distant cousin. You still got your first cousins. We're very insensitive by accident.
Right.
And I say by accident because people really believe that if you say you lost your grandma, that, oh, that's just your grandmom, you still got your mom. That was your mom's mom. Right? There's a lady at the church, she lost her daughter, and her granddaughter lost her mother. The granddaughter don't know what it's like to lose a child, and the grandmother don't know what it's like to lose a mother because she still got her mother. So they're in the same house trying to navigate that. And I find it fascinating because when my mother passed away, I was in the house with my father who lost his wife, but I also was in the house with siblings who lost their mother. And we all navigated it differently. I shared on the 18th how at 5, I was 7, whatever the age was I gave, I was so closed off and shy that when I felt uncomfortable or overwhelmed, I would hide under a table. And my sister, who passed away in 2022, had to call her out of her class to come and get me from under the table. And that's the only person that I would respond to. So that was a portion of my grief too. When you lose your mother at 7, you don't fully understand what you're dealing with. So I used to be afraid that she was going to walk out of a room. That was a part of me being a child, grieving at such a young age, not really knowing what to do with the grief. And even though at school the counselor had this thing for us, we would come together every Thursday and we'd have like a counseling session. It was myself and 2 other young girls who lost their mom. And it was great, but it wasn't necessarily fully effective because I didn't understand what I was navigating. So she tried, and they don't have that now. But she tried, but I really didn't understand. And when my dad died and I moved with my aunt and my uncle, there never was a conversation of let's get the girls counseling, because you do what you know, right? You don't know until you know. They didn't know any better. And so as an adult, when you make the decision to go through therapy and they work you backwards to bring you back forward, you're like, hey, these people really should have just sent me to therapy. They didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to navigate that part of it as well, forgiving the people that were in my charge that didn't make those decisions that would have helped me sooner. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Like you said, sometimes we have a form of what grief is and what it looks like based on the people that we're around. So we see how they grieve, we see what they do, and you don't know another way, right? You don't know, like, it doesn't have to look like this, or I don't have to participate in what I call silly traditions, right? The releasing flowers and balloons and all of the things that people do at anniversaries and holidays and all of these things. And I always ask myself, but who made the decision to say that that needed to happen?
Yeah,
We are participating in these rituals because of the other people around us that's also participating in it.
Yeah.
But you don't have no real knowledge on why are you actually doing it. You know what I mean? And so, yes, I had to go through the same thing, right? When my dad passed away, I'm grieving my dad. My mom is grieving her husband of 34 years.
And you trying to be there for your mom.
And you trying to do that, and you like, but wait, I can't. I have never lost a spouse. I'm not even married. Like, I can't even fathom what it is like to be with somebody for 34 years. I have no idea what she's going through, right?
And then her trying to be strong For
for
you,
me, because
yeah,
my
because it don't
children
matter how old
just
you
want
get, you
their
still hurt a
dad.
child.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
and then my siblings, all of us navigated it different too. I have two younger sibling and an older sibling, and all of us grew up in the same house, but none of us went through that the same. My oldest sister
Hmm.
left the state. She moved away for 7 years. Me and my younger sister stayed home, but we all just was in this what I call downward spiral, and
Hmm.
none of us had the capacity to help one another,
Yeah.
like at all. And I say the same thing. I wish if I'd have known about counseling and therapy in 2014, the way I know about it now, I'd have gladly
Hmm.
sat in these chairs.
Right.
But you feel like you said, it's the stigma of, especially in our culture, in the Black culture, there's a big stigma
It
on
is.
therapy. Like you come tell somebody, oh, I think I need therapy, and they look at you like, girl, you all right, stop tripping. Go take an aspirin and go to bed, try it again in the morning. You know, they say
Yep.
these four types of things, and you be like, no, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
And they serious. And
Yep.
they just brush it off, sweep it under the rug. And this is why people can't get healed the way that they need to get healed, because the people around them
Hmm.
is not understanding that this is a bigger thing than what you see on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I just,
I share that a lot. I've read so many books, and I shared it in my book about how my depression didn't have to last 10 years, but it lasted 10 years because my mom and dad didn't believe that I had it.
hmm
So because they was just like, oh no, that depression, oh, what is that? No, you guys don't have the knowledge of it. You don't believe in therapy. You don't believe in all of these things. And because I'm trying to believe something else and I'm trying to try a different path, I'm in this like middle space of, do I do this or don't I do this? If I do this,
Yeah.
am I going against my parents? If I don't do this, then I'm going against myself. Like literally a war between me and myself, but it's also a war with me and my parents, because I'm expressing to you what's going on and you don't believe it.
Right. It makes it very difficult.
Very much so. And I think it also, that's what happens with grief as well, because just because you have your relatives around you doesn't mean that each of you are going to navigate it the same way.
Right.
And you have to think about the relationship with each individual.
Yeah.
Each individual is also not the same. Your parents had 9 children. 9 children doesn't mean each one of those relationships were the same.
Yeah. And then the ages that they were,
And
like
that,
my
exactly.
oldest brother, who was the firstborn, and I'm the lastborn, our experiences are totally different. I even said that on the 18th, like what I experienced of my father is my experience, and I can only speak to that. And I don't allow anybody's experience to deter or to change what my experience was, because yours is yours and mine is mine.
Right.
Yeah. I think another thing that kind of helped me navigate grief was writing. I started writing the night my dad passed away. I was 15. And I wrote a poem entitled Why Me? And I look back now and I'm just like, man, why me? And I just thought about that and I was like, I sat there and the night my father passed away, I back in the day you got school tokens, okay? You could use your school token after 5 p.m. You couldn't use it on the bus after 5 p.m. So, in order for me to go downtown, I lived in Philadelphia. I went to the gallery to go shopping. My dad had to give me money to get back home. So, my dad knew. My dad was old school and he was of the school of thought that as long as he knew, he wasn't going to tell nobody else what I was doing. And so when I came home and I saw these people that ordinarily wouldn't be at the house and they told me that he passed away, the conversation was, I was able to do what I wanted to do. I didn't have no discipline. And I'm like, these people stupid. This was me at 15 and this was my mind. I'm just being transparent. I was like, these people stupid. They don't know nothing about public transportation. You can't use a school token after 5 o'clock. So if I got home, clearly he gave me the money to come home. I don't have a job. Then to sit and watch them figure out who was going to take me and my sister. My sister was 18, I was 15. And I always said I didn't really feel like I never was really understood in the family, and they didn't want to be bothered, and that's just what it was. And can't nobody change my mind about that. I'm going to feel how I want to feel. That's my experience, and I'm entitled to it. People feel some type of way. That's just too bad. Don't nobody pay for the roof over my head but me and my husband. But sitting there and listening to just the back and forth of who's going to take Heather specifically was a little hurtful, because I'm like, my dad died today. Y'all in his dining room in front of me talking about who going to take me. And it really wasn't no takers. Like, nobody really wanted to take me in. And this is the reality of it. And I don't care how people remember it. I know what I know. And what I know is my brother was the only one that said, I'll take her. And his mom was like, you are a single bachelor and you don't know the first thing about raising children. And after she said that, that's when everybody started thinking twice. But I'm like, why does it take for something like that, or my sister to say, we come as a package deal, either you take us both or I'm not going, for somebody to open their door up to a kid? There was a lot of misunderstanding, and a part of that was a grieving process for me as well, because you have to come to grips with the fact of the truth about how people feel about you. Mm-hmm. It never really bothered you before, because I lived with my dad and that's who was taking care of me, so I didn't really care about what was going on in other people's houses. Then reality set in at 15. You live with somebody else, but when you lose your parents, you have to grow up. You no longer can be a child, because ain't nobody on this earth gonna treat you like, I don't care how much people love their nieces and nephews. If you got kids and you take your niece in or your nephew in, you're not going to treat them the same way you treat your kids. And it's not something that's done purposely. That's innate. And so I felt like as a kid, I had to grieve that process. But as an adult, you grow up and you realize life be life. I went from having one child to having three. My electric bill went up. My water bill went up. My food bill went up. I got to put out more money for allowance and transportation. I got to buy more clothes and shoes. All of that, as an adult, they had to navigate taking us in. And that's not something that we think about in the moment. We're in our place as children. They're in their place as adults. And we're just thinking about what we're thinking about. And yes, I got a Social Security check every month that was sent in my aunt's name for me. But my sister didn't. Because that stopped at 18. Once she graduated high school, that was it. There wasn't no check coming her way. That one check wasn't taking care of both of us. It was solely from the state to take care of me. And when I went to college, I was a ward of the court, because my aunt took temporary custody. She didn't take permanent custody because I was almost 16. That's my assumption of it. I don't really know why. I'm going to say because I was 16. I never asked her why. I was good with how everything went. Because when you're a ward of the court, you get more funding for school. But just all of those things, navigating it at one time,
right,
is a lot. And when you go to therapy as an adult, when they make you work backwards, that means you start at the root, which is when I was 7 and I lost my mother. And then I had to work my way up to the point of losing my sister. I'm now looking into going to another therapist to discuss everything that I lost within myself.
Right.
Because it's a process.
Yeah.
And, people either say, oh, no, you could just pray it away. Faith without works is dead, honey. Oh no,
Right.
we don't do that. We don't go to therapy. You fine. Just take you take what does they say? Take two. Is it two leaves and
Yeah.
see you in the morning? Take two leaves and see you in the morning. What? No, I need more than that.
Right.
I need more than that. I'm trying to navigate this,
Yeah.
and the fact that I had to do stuff so young. Most people don't go through menopause until they're in their 50s. It's very rare that somebody will. I was perimenopausal at 39. Now that was natural. That wasn't induced by no type of surgery. But most people don't go through that so young. And that was a part of the reason that I couldn't have children because I was perimenopausal so young. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I did everything y'all told me to do. I didn't get pregnant out of wedlock. And now this is the punishment. That's how I looked at it. This is the punishment. Child, I was in my feelings. I was like, this don't make no sense. This how you know it's menopause. I'm over here fanning myself. Menopause is another humdinger. You be hot, you be cold, you be thirsty, you be not thirsty. You hungry, but you don't like nothing you eat. You got grief that you are a different personality too.
Yeah.
All the natural changes that women go through, we got to grieve. And so all the additives and preservatives, that just adds to it. Like right now, on live, having a heat flash. This is a real moment. And I got central air.
Right. And we live.
And I got central air, y'all. So what is happening? Listen, fanning myself with one of my books. From wholeness from brokenness. Yup. Yup. I'm right now about to be whole with this air. I need to put a fan on this desk. A good idea. I think I might. Next time y'all see me live, I'm gonna have my backdrop up.
Your backdrop.
My backdrop up.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on. You are so funny. She has a sense of humor, y'all, as y'all can see. Heather is amazing. I thank God for meeting her. Like I said, we connected in March at the Authors Ball that was
Didn't
had in
even know.
Washington,
I didn't
D.C.
even know that we were going to both be there.
Me
I
either.
had
And
no
we was
idea.
at the same table. It
And
was
that
it
was
was
the part
all
two. I was like, now how we get put at the same table? What somebody know?
right. Exactly. It was so much fun. And I just thank God for allowing us to connect. You are awesome. Whether you believe it or not, you heard it from me. You are awesome. Stay awesome. You are doing amazing things for the kingdom. Keep grieving with God. And don't, like you said, don't allow someone else's journey to impact your journey. She is over here sweating, y'all. And I'm trying to keep a straight face, but I'm watching you fan with this.
Because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about how some people, they do the balloon release, but some people like to go to the cemetery. Baby, if that's not your thing, don't let nobody tell you that you need to go somewhere that don't make you feel comfortable. If going to the
Right,
cemetery is gonna bring you peace, you go ahead to the cemetery. If it's not
right,
gonna bring you peace, you ain't gotta go to the cemetery for nobody. Tell them to go kick rocks with an open toe shoe,
right.
and that's what they could do. Because I know for me,
Exactly.
going to the cemetery don't give me comfort. That's not my thing.
Oh,
But other
now
people
I
do it, and I'm
understand.
here for it. If that's what you want to do, I mean, like my husband, he go visit his dad at the cemetery. That brings him comfort. It's amazing. I'm here for it. But it's just not me.
That's not me either. That's
So,
right. So you gotta
but it's
let
for
people
you.
navigate. Right. It's for you. It was for
Go
you. It's for
ahead.
you. But what's for me is for me.
Yeah, be
And
free.
right. And everybody has their own healing journey. So thank you so much for sharing on this evening. I am so grateful that you took time out of your day to come hang out with us over here in Grief and Depression Awareness Group. We are so grateful for this conversation. Like I said, you said a lot. I try to keep up with it in the chat. Once I download the live, I will share it over on YouTube. And then once it's on YouTube, you can share it out on your platform as well. So I just want to thank you again for hanging out with us on this evening. And I just pray that something was said that is encouraging, uplifting, and insightful to anyone that may be navigating grief and depression. This is the space to get awareness, get an understanding. I made that the Bible says in all things get an understanding. And so as you can see, myself and Heather, we're getting an understanding of what grief is in order to be in that space to not just go through it, but to help somebody else get through it. So thank you so much. She is Dr. Heather Robinson. And I just want to say thank you again for this conversation. And we will be back in the group in September. We have another guest in September. I will not be live in August. Just taking a vacation, getting some things done. So I will not be live in August, but we will be back in September. Final thoughts, Dr. Heather, before I end the broadcast.
When it comes to grief, don't let nobody tell you how long you can stay in your grief. That's the final thing that came to my head. Don't ever let somebody put a timetable on your grief. If it only took them 5 months, God bless their heart. You go through your process as long as you got to go through your process. Just remember, don't just sit in that grief. You can sit in it for a minute, but don't stay there. You got to get up. And just because you got up don't mean that you're not still grieving, and that's okay too. Don't let nobody put a timetable on your grief.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all. I love y'all.
That's it, and that's all. You heard it here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us this evening, and we will see you back again soon. Have a blessed evening.
Yeah.